Hey, we're here on the podcast with Miss Sharon Abbott, who is known for inspiring her audiences to live their lives on purpose, to create more productive and profitable businesses, and to change their lives to be what they've always wanted it to become. Her website is ultimatebusinessuniv.com. We've known each other for at least 13 years. I just noticed, Miss Sharon, that we've even been connected on LinkedIn for 9 years. I didn't even realize I was using LinkedIn 9 years ago. So we go way back, and we're both entrepreneurs, but you've owned several businesses going back to the early 70s, including graphic design, travel agency, and an entrepreneur training firm. And you're all about creating your own reality, a woman's right to write, be your own boss. And you're even an author of children's books, so there's so much to jump on. You've appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and you're known for your innovative concepts and positive communication techniques. Sound like the ultimate all-star dream speaker, author, coach. So, Sharon, glad to see you.
Thank you, Robert. It's so much fun. And it is great to reconnect with people that I've known for so many years. You know, a lot of people come and go, so it was wonderful to be able to see you're still there and doing so well. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like catching up with someone from high school or from a kindergarten or meeting an old teacher. You're like, whoa, there's the old and the new, and there's the nostalgia, but you can also be proud of the person, and you're like, hey, this person, they're in it for the long haul just like I am. And so speaking to that, what are you all about? What's your current focus and passion?
Well, about 2000, I was sitting there having dinner with my little brother, and he said to me, we have to do something to help the kids who don't have a sister like you. And it was like somebody dropped an anvil on my toe. I mean, it was so shocking. I had taken my brother when he was 15 away from my parents when I was only 24. And I got him through high school, and then he ended up with colon cancer in 1998. And that was such a hard thing to watch somebody you love that much deal with colon cancer. He was given 6 months to live. And with the things that I had learned, we got 10 years. And during that 10 years, we came up with this plan to take kids off the streets. So prior to COVID, we had 200,000 children living on the streets in the United States without an adult to provide or protect them, which is shocking to me. I mean, everybody thinks that the United States is so perfectly run and we have all these programs and you're always helping people in other countries. And yet we have kids in this country that don't know where their meal is coming from today. They don't know where they're going to sleep tonight. And this is every day. And that's insane to me. So the school, I'm going to make it a castle. So taking kids off the street and having them grow up in a castle. So I do a lot of these things that are kind of tongue-in-cheek because I want the kids to have that value. So in our schools, when I graduated high school, we were third from the top of all industrialized nations. Today, we're third from the bottom. So our education system is lacking a lot. When I graduated high school, 60% of everyone in the country went on to college. Today, 60% of the kids barely graduate high school. So we're not really focusing on what the kids need to be good leaders for tomorrow. We're not cultivating that generation in problem-solving techniques, creativity, self-esteem. And you look at kids, they're lost today. You know, in the area that I came from, the San Francisco Bay Area, there's one community of San Ramon. They have the highest ratio of teenagers committing suicide than any community in the country. Both parents are working. They live in houses that are 2 million, 5 million, 10 million. And how is it that they have the highest ratio of teenage suicide? I mean, the problems that we have in this country go way beyond what people understand. If you don't have children, you're probably not even connected to it. So what can you do in the community? So every winter, on my birthday's in November, so I launch a Codes for Kids program through social media. And when people donate, I go out and I buy coats and blankets, and then I drive around and give them to all the kids that I see living on the streets. And you can do this in your neighborhood. You don't have to wait for winter. I mean, kids need every day. I've gone in to, like, I'm not a fan of fast food, but I've gone in and I've bought hamburgers and handed them out to groups of kids that are living on the streets. If you think about somebody who has, like this one woman I met, she had a 5-bedroom house and she lived in it by herself. Right? So do you really want to take in a kid that's a stranger? Well, you get to know them and then they're not a stranger. There's so many ways of being able to help out. When I look at churches, and how much more they could do other than just serving the congregation that attends their church. They could have a community outreach with every single church to make sure that these kids have a place to go that's safe. If kids, and I know kids can be destructive, but not all kids are destructive. They can, if they had a safe place that they could sleep at night and not have to worry about what's going on in the streets, it would be so heartfelt to be able to be responsible for something like that in your own community. We have so much that we can do. So today with 700,000 children living on the streets, 24,000 here in Houston alone. This makes no sense to me. So we know statistically that by the time these kids are 35, 50% will end up in prison or dead. That's a hard fact. Why aren't we doing something about this jointly? So I want to encourage people to maybe get together in groups, figure out things that you can do in a local environment. We will be coming back to the United States and we'll be picking up hotels that are closed, schools that have been closed, maybe even large industrial buildings, and converting those to live workspaces. And we need people to be able to work with us to have that effective as a program. So we're going to make sure that infants through 24-year-olds have a safe place to sleep, that they'll have the education that they need, and good, nutritious food, because living on fast food is not the answer. That's a whole other story. But, I really want to start helping the kids figure out how they can solve this problem, how they can be proactive. And it only takes one person to start a revolution. That's what most people don't realize. When you think back to when the United States seceded from England, 12 people got together and said, we don't like the double taxation, and that started the war. 12 people to create something that monumental. So what could you do if you had 12 people in your own community that you could help inspire them to be able to do something to make a difference? Wouldn't it be amazing if we could look back 2 years from now and say, we have no children living on the streets. We have managed to build a community where kids know that they're safe, that, I tried to organize in the Bay Area, and I wasn't successful at all, but we have bike trails, running paths, and people plant their vegetables, and the vegetables grow out into the path walkway. And I tried to organize the Boy Scouts to be able to pick the vegetables along the path and then distribute them to homeless people. And I got all this resistance because of the liability. And people are so concerned about liability that they don't want to do something that simple. It just boggles my mind, the things that we can do that don't take much time and effort. I thought because Boy Scouts are always looking for badges, they do their community work and they get a badge, that it would be a wonderful outreach program. So, people can create new programs to be able to help their communities and not have to just sit back and watch this or think that it's not existent in every single community. It's everywhere in this country. So when we look at, okay, there's 50 states, 700,000 children, we're looking at 350 kids in every single town minimum that are exposed to being homeless at one point or another. Now, and sometimes it probably isn't that smart, but I will walk up and approach groups of kids that are homeless, and I'll just start talking to them, like, what do you need? Why are you homeless? What's going on? I met two young men, they were 25, and they had left their homes when they were 12. Now, I want you to think about how drastic would your home have to be if you left home at 12.
Quite a bit.
I mean, that's just, God, it's heartbreaking. So the one boy, he came home from school one day, and his mother had moved with her boyfriend and didn't tell him where she was moving. And he had to fend for himself. At 25, he managed to put himself through junior college, and he had a decent job. It wasn't great. He was making just a little over minimum wage. And what I tried to do was get him to figure out, now that you have this job, what can you do to be able to get a job that pays better? What education do you need to go out and get to be able to increase your value to a company? And the last time I talked to him, he had doubled his salary, which, for a 28-year-old, that's pretty cool to go from 25 to 28 and double your salary. And, I'm hoping that set him in motion for the rest of his life. I lost touch with him. Another young man at 25, he wouldn't tell me why he was homeless at 12. So it had to be pretty bad. And I was so impressed with him. He figured out to go into a community and help people who were really poor build a community garden. He made enough money by selling some of the produce to go to the next community and have seeds and money to buy tools to build the next community garden. He had been in 11 countries by the time I had met him at 25, that he was able to go around the world and inspire people to be able to grow their own food, so at least they had clean, fresh vegetables and fruits. So take somebody like that, if they had had a college education, if they had had a mentor or parents that could support them, imagine where he could have gone. So I tried to set it up that he did have a mentor. So we have things like boys clubs and girls clubs and big brothers and big sisters, and people don't realize how gratifying that is to be able to give back to communities. So let's say your kids are now in college, so you're an empty nester. What a great way to be able to fulfill that void is to give back to kids who don't have anyone to look at. The number of single parents in this country. So we had this man who was a coach for the Chicago Bulls, and he told me one day that they did a study in all the prisons in the United States and found out that 90% of the prisoners did not have a father in their home when they were growing up. So think about that. We know it. That was 15 years ago, and we've not done anything to be able to bring men into young boys' lives that are growing up in a single-parent home. And if that was a solution to get young men not to go the path of crime, then why don't we have programs to do that? If we can send $350 billion to the Ukraine, why aren't we looking to take care of our kids in our own country?
Right. Well, this is a lot of awareness and education you're getting us. And as you're kind of talking us through these scenarios and these things you figured out, it seems like there's a lot of parallels to the entrepreneurship, right? You mentioned about some of these ideas, like basically like iterating through the spreadsheet, right? Looking at who are the kids around town that need coats, but there's also the idea of just starting small, right? Just talk to one homeless person, get one coat for one kid, and there's also the aspect of kind of aggregating the situation and looking at, well, what's being provided and where are people still being left out? And then there's like that idea of the average person just gives up so soon, right? If you're looking to build a business or start a speaking career, it's deceptively hard. It looks easy on the outside, but when you do it, there's all this extra stuff involved, and a lot of people give up. And I imagine a lot is also true as far as the philanthropy, right? As far as giving back, it looks easy enough to start the food pantry or to start the school for kids or to help out, but then it takes that real kind of drive and ambition to do like what the one kid did with the gardening and start off with some small win and then cash flow it from there. And so you even mentioned some of these sort of missteps, failures. And so like if someone was looking to help out their local community and they say, oh, self-defeatism, I'm not even sure where to start. Do I look at the Chamber of Commerce, Facebook groups? Like what's a good starting point, even if they are like too afraid to go and talk to homeless or not even sure where to go? Like what would you say to someone who says, I've given up before I've even started? What do I do?
I would suggest organizing a group, whether it's one other person or 5 other people, so that jointly you have a focus and that brainstorming, you can come up with more things much easier. If you're a member of a church, involve the church. I know that every church is always looking for community outreach programs, so we need more of that. One person alone, it's hard to do, and I've done a lot on my own. I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've tried real hard, and it does coincide with entrepreneurship. When we see a problem, that to me, there's always a solution. And looking for the solution, maybe the first thing isn't right. And I'm always reminded, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but the first space shuttle to the moon, they had to adjust their course 1,025 times.
Jeez.
With all of NASA behind them, they still had to adjust their course. So here we are on Earth, able to make our course direct any way we want. So do we want our life to be that we put our feet up, watch movies, go to bed, get up the next day, do a little social media, a few phone calls with family and friends, and that's it? Or do we want to make an impact on the world that we're in? When we see a problem, when we brainstorm with other people, we can find solutions. And homeless children is just one of them. But to me, it's in my heart because of my brother. And when I think about kids at 15 years old and 12 years old living on the streets by themselves, that's unjustifiable. We cannot in any way think that should be our norm. And yet it increases every year. So if everyone could just look for a group that they could belong. So there are groups like the Seroptimists, the Lions, the Rotary, the Elks Clubs. They all do philanthropic work, but they don't have the focus of just helping kids. Even though the Lions group does have a children's program, they don't really do anything proactive because there's no one in there driving it. So if I could inspire anybody to stand up and say, I want to help these kids, all of these organizations have already been established. All you have to do is tap into them. Right. So every Lions, Rotary, Kiwanis Club is looking for a speaker every single week. And so people can go out to these organizations and create a topical speech that says, here's the problem in our community, and this is what we can do. And it would be amazing to see this as a grassroots effect all across the country.
Yeah.
How many people have basements in their houses that are empty or stuffed with a bunch of junk you'll never use, right? Or right. Garages that are just stuffed with stuff. They could be converted into a infringement in your own home life. But there are places that you could actually put kids, like there's so many things to make it available for kids to be safe.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a great message. You might have the basement, you might have the spare room, and these speaking opportunities to get your cause out there, they all exist. We just need to look at them and know about them. And, you're giving me some flashbacks to different clubs, groups. Like I've been in Boy Scouts, I've been in Toastmasters, and whenever you have to corral people, it's like 10 times the work that you expect, isn't it? It's like if you think if there's 12 people say that they'll go and do the gardening club, or 12 people say they'll go and pick up trash with you on a Saturday morning, then 5 will even commit to it and 2 will show up. And so there seems to be this amount of like setting your expectations and an amount of like leadership and follow up. And what have you found when it comes to like just dealing with the mess that is people and making sure people like pay attention to you and do what you say, and you have to like get so many people on board and do all this work just for the small percentage of what actually pays off to work? Like, do you have any life lessons if someone is looking to join a group, start a group, just get something organized dealing with people? Like, what do you wish you knew going in, or what would you tell someone who's doing this?
So everyone knows at least one person who is the voice of the community. Right? You think about that. There are some people who just love to get up on a soapbox. They don't really care what the soapbox is about, but there are people who they're contagious, really. Their enthusiasm inspires enthusiasm. Align with those people. That takes all the burden off of you. You don't have to do it all on your own. If I had understood that, I'm sure that I would have had a lot more accomplished. But I wanted it to be something that people would say, oh, I would love to do that. And that doesn't work because people have busy lives. And even if they don't have busy lives, to change something that they're doing in their lives takes a lot of effort. So it takes that cheerleader, that person who could just get everyone enthused behind the idea of doing something for kids.
I love it. So figure out some allies, and the kids call them influencers, but that has a whole other meaning, but similar idea, right? Who's the connector? Who's the person that knows people that you can get on your side, and who can you have help you? Because if you, like you said a few times, if you try to do it yourself, then you'll be the bottleneck. You'll hold yourself back. So you need to get people organized and get people working together. And so, we've been talking about just some of these ideas of helping out your local community and doing the right thing. But as far as this topic where you're very skilled and experienced in this, I might not know the right question to ask you. So what's the missing hidden question in this conversation? What should I be asking you? I just don't know to ask you.
I need to meet people who are connected with youth challenges. So judges who work in the juvenile court systems, people who work in social services who know, where these kids are. I met with an assemblyman in California, and he was telling me that they have this huge problem with kids in the Stockton, Lodi area. And so we kind of created a program to be able to help these kids have a place to go that was safe. Because if people don't realize, California does get freezing temperatures. So, there are things that can be done to help these kids. So that would be something that would help me a great deal. And to find people who, want to step up, and maybe they want a salary. We will have very generous paid salary positions that will be our live workspace directors. We'll be having teachers that we hire. We're going to be doing a lot of innovative education. So things like 3D printing and, doing all kinds of things that will help kids get better jobs. So our staffs, our first one's going to be in Washington, D.C., because I know a young man there that really wants to be the director. He has a master's in education, and he came from a very poor upbringing, and so he wants to give back. And so that's kind of where you can help me, is being able to connect with people like that.
Well, great. And so if someone says, hey, this sounds like me, and I want to connect with Miss Sharon Abbott and get that conversation going and figure out how I fit into her world domination plans of doing so much good in the world, what are some next steps here? What's the website and how does someone contact you?
So the website is ultimatebusinessuniv as in Victor.com. And my contact information is on there. I'm very available on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, X. I'm pretty much out there. I did not do TikTok, though.
Someday.
I figure enough is enough, really.
Right. There's so many platforms to be on, and just in the same way that our time is always limited, but we can choose to use it either, as you said, to scroll the next social media platform or watch TV or sit around or make some change in the world, right? Help some people's lives and put a dent in some of these alarming statistics that you've been mentioning here, Sharon, about the child poverty, about the trajectory that some of these kids are on. If they don't get just at least a little bit of help, and it's great that you turned a bad into a good, right? You turned your own personal situation into just an opportunity to wake up and say, well, hey, people need my help and they're not getting the help they need, so we need to do something different. It's ridiculous. It's crazy, some of these statistics that you mentioned about just how people are sometimes forgotten, right? They slip through the cracks, and it's up to us to do our part. It doesn't take much, and imagine if everyone did just this little bit, how much better we would be. But you can't control other people, right? It starts with you, and especially starts by you going to ultimatebusinessuniv.com. You go there and you can find all those social links that Ms. Sharon Abbott mentioned. And in case you're someone that just likes to search, we'll spell out her name here. That's SharynAbbott. And we've been speaking with Ms. Sharon Abbott, who has lived an amazing life, who's had this amazing business career, and she's now giving back, and she's now turning it into something, and she's using all these transferable skills that she learned from leadership and entrepreneurship and business building to now change the world and create this castle, to create the schools, and to just make a change in the world. And as we're wrapping up our conversation here, Sharon, and people are going to ultimatebusinessuniv.com, it's time for the scary part of the show where I try to stump you and I ask for a quote or lesson that has served you. So what comes to mind for a fun quote or lesson?
So the one that always pops into my head because it's so poignant, Lily Tomlin said, "The problem with winning the rat race makes you still the rat."
Nice. So it's time to graduate, right? It's time to grow beyond that, become more of what you are, and especially by going to ultimatebusinessuniv.com. And as we sign off, any last words, Ms. Sharon?
I would love to be able to engage with people who would like to make a difference and, help guide them through the process of starting something in their own community. So I'm always open to talking with people. And Robert, thank you so much for being able to do this. I really do appreciate it.
And I appreciate you, too, for giving us like 18 different ideas of what can be done. People need to hear this. And if you are someone that wants to start that conversation with Ms. Sharon, ultimatebusinessuniv.com. We'll see you there. And thank you, Sharon, for stopping by. I really appreciate everything you had to say today.
You're welcome, Robert. Thank you.